The story opens with Sojiro Sakagami, a 16-year-old high school student. Dragging himself up an incredibly steep slope, he lets out a tired complaint about how ridiculous it is that his school was built in such an inconvenient location. According to the rumors, the school's founder apparently had a thing for elevated places, but Sojiro can't help thinking that idea was completely idiotic. As he continues making his way uphill, he figures arriving a little late might be unavoidable. Then, out of nowhere, a girl zooms past him on a bicycle. He's stunned that someone can pedal up a hill this steep without even seeming out of breath. She stops a short distance ahead, glances back at him, and casually calls out. Guessing that he's a second-year student, she tells him to get on the bike. Since they're both already running late, Jiro hesitates for a moment before finally climbing aboard. During the ride, he apologizes and says he'll find a way to return the favor someday. She simply shrugs it off, insisting it's nothing important, before proudly declaring that she's built as tough as an ox. Her confidence catches him by surprise, yet he doesn't question it. Instead, his attention shifts to her skirt. It's noticeably shorter than the school's regulation uniform. He recalls hearing that third-year students sometimes alter their outfits like that. Curious about how she figured out what year he was in, he's about to ask when she smoothly avoids the topic. Looking at his phone, he realizes they're officially late already. After reaching school, he buys her a soda from the vending machine to thank her. She accepts it with a smile and apologizes once more for not getting them there faster. Jiro reassures her that it's really fine, even if they only make it in time for second period. Observing her carefully, he wonders whether she's a third-year student or perhaps a transfer student. Then, without warning, she brushes aside her bangs and shyly asks whether he has any friends. The unexpected question catches him off guard, but after a pause, he admits that he does have a few. Rather than reacting to his answer, she casually reveals that she's skilled at divination. The confession surprises him. The more she speaks, the harder she becomes to understand. With a small laugh, she explains that her fortune-telling tends to frighten people away. People stop hanging around her after hearing the fortunes she predicts, almost as if they've been cursed. She talks about someone who once requested a compatibility reading. The outcome turned out so terrible that she ended up giving them bizarre advice. That person never returned afterward, leaving Jiro completely baffled. He asks why she'd say something like that and still expect people to stick around. Ignoring the question, she changes the subject and offers to read his fortune instead. She asks whether anything has been troubling him lately. When he hesitates to answer, she jokes that he probably wants her gone already. Jiro laughs awkwardly before admitting that what he really wants is a girlfriend, preferably someone older than him. Instantly, an expression crosses her face that he can't even begin to interpret. Bewildered by her reaction, he nervously tries to pass it off as a joke, but the attempt falls flat. Growing frustrated, he asks if liking older girls is really that strange. Rather than replying, she pushes back her bangs again and requests to see his hand. Thinking that maybe she doesn't actually dislike him, he offers it without protest. Then his attention drifts toward the slightly unbuttoned collar of her shirt. Before his thoughts can wander too far, she studies his palm and smiles. Just as I suspected, she says. The person destined to be with you is younger than you. With complete certainty, she tells him it won't be long before he gets a girlfriend, and that girl will be a kohai, a younger student. Jiro is left utterly confused. He doesn't think he connects well with younger girls at all. Before he can argue, she tells him that the outcome has already been decided before walking away. She mentions that he's free to visit the divination club whenever he wants. Watching her leave, Sojiro reflects on how unusual yet fascinating she is. Only then does he realize that he never even asked for her name. Meanwhile, the girl, Inuki Asuka, enters her own classroom. Her teacher immediately scolds her for arriving late on the very first day. She blames the delay on a flat bicycle tire. It's a classic excuse, but her thoughts remain fixed on Sojiro and his desire to date an older girl. Remembering the fortune she read for him, she decides that, for now, keeping her actual year level hidden is probably for the best. Even though she keeps insisting to herself that it isn't a big deal, she can't stop herself from blushing whenever she recalls his reactions. She tries convincing herself that it doesn't affect her at all, but the truth is written all over her face. Later on, Sojiro decides to track down the divination club so he can see that peculiar girl once again. His eyes land on the club signboard, and it's an absolute disaster. It looks sloppy, unorganized, and far from anything an official school club should have. Even so, he takes a breath and walks inside. The moment he enters, He spots Mizuki casually munching on a piece of bread. She turns toward him with an unreadable expression. Are students even allowed to eat in here? He asks. After swallowing her bite, she snaps back, and who the hell are you supposed to be? The sudden hostility leaves Sojiro frozen in place. You seriously don't remember me? He asks. After letting him panic for a second, a grin spreads across her face as she admits she was only messing with him. From across the room, Sojiro looks so emotionally overwhelmed that he's practically on the verge of tears. Pulling out a chair, he sits opposite Mizuki and asks if she always spends lunch by herself. Mizuki gives a careless shrug and replies that she doesn't have any friends, so this is just another normal day for her. As he settles into the seat, she narrows her eyes suspiciously. Why exactly are you sitting there? She asks bluntly. With a relaxed smile, he answers, I just wanted to share lunch with my beloved senpai. That's all. Mizuki smirks. You're pretty smooth with your words, aren't you? Then she adds with a teasing grin, not that I need to brag, but I'm ridiculously cute. Sojiro lifts an eyebrow. Isn't it a little strange to compliment yourself like that? Without warning, Mizuki rises from her seat, grabs him by the chin and leans dangerously close. Go ahead, she says. Try saying that to my face one more time. Startled, Sojiro immediately throws up his hands in surrender. All right, all right. You're seriously adorable, he blurts out. A faint blush flickers across Mizuki's cheeks before she quickly regains control of herself. Reaching into her belongings, she pulls out a crystal ball and proudly announces that it's time for a special fortune reading. As Sojiro watches, he wonders if she simply gets embarrassed by compliments. Then he notices the awkward way she's handling the crystal ball. A terrible feeling settles in his stomach. Sure enough, the ball slips from her grasp and crashes onto the floor, shattering into pieces. Mizuki stares blankly at the broken fragments, her expression growing darker by the second. Rather than bursting into tears, she dramatically points at Sojiro. This is your destiny, she declares, before muttering that she might as well just go home. But before she can leave, she suddenly spins around, wraps her hands around his neck, and shouts, It's pathetic that you can't even change your own fate. My divinations are absolute. Completely flustered, Sojiro yells back, Hold on! Are you trying to snap my neck too? Then, without thinking, he blurts out, Also, I can totally feel your body pressed against me. That single comment sends the entire situation into even greater chaos. Mizuki freezes on the spot as his words sink in. Then, to Sojiro's disbelief, she hugs him even tighter while wearing an oddly dreamy expression. Dying in the arms of a cute girl, she sighs. That's every guy's fantasy, isn't it? Inside his head, Sojiro immediately disagrees. Absolutely not. Instead, he loudly suggests they clean up the mess before things get any worse. Mizuki releases him and nods, admitting that their advisor would definitely be furious if they left everything as it was. As Sojiro watches her casually picking up broken glass with her bare hands, he mutters that she must have gorillas for breakfast to be that ridiculously tough. Completely unfazed, Mizuki kneels down and keeps cleaning. The moment she reaches toward a particularly sharp shard, Sojiro grabs her hand and pulls it back. Don't do reckless things like that, he says seriously. This kind of work is supposed to be the guy's responsibility. His genuine concern catches Mizuki off guard. A blush creeps onto her face. After a brief silence, she quietly agrees before turning away so he won't notice her expression. At least you're taking responsibility now, she says softly. Thanks. As they continue cleaning together, Sojiro accidentally cuts his finger. Mizuki immediately takes hold of his hand to inspect the injury. Then, without warning, she presses his bloodied thumb onto a sheet of paper. What are you doing? Sojiro cries out. Calmly, she replies, Using your blood to create the club's official seal. His eyes widen in horror. Are you out of your mind? Mizuki simply lets out a sigh. This is just the kind of club I happen to run. To her surprise, Sojiro responds with a small smile. You know, I actually don't hate it. Mizuki grins in satisfaction. Meanwhile, Sojiro silently questions how his life somehow led him into such an absurd situation. Before he can dwell on it any longer, Mizuki grabs his hand once more and suddenly licks the wound on his finger. Magic healing, she says casually as she heads toward the door. I'll go turn in our club application. Sojiro remains rooted to the spot, completely speechless. What kind of rabbit hole did I just fall into? Meanwhile, as Mizuki walks through the hallway, her cheeks glow red with excitement. She can't contain her happiness after obtaining his thumbprint. The following morning, Sojiro gets himself ready for school while the television chatters away in the background. The weather is absolutely perfect for heading outside today. And now, it's time for Namazu Senpai's Fortune Corner. Hearing that, Sojiro quietly mutters to himself, I still don't even know my senpai's actual name. Before he can think any further, a voice behind him cuts through the room. Can't you at least throw your dirty clothes into the laundry basket? A girl scolds. Sojiro groans in annoyance before answering. Could you maybe lower the volume this early in the morning? She immediately fires back. I'll stop nagging when you finally start acting like an adult. Crossing his arms, Sojiro proudly declares that he's practically the definition of maturity. Meanwhile, the morning news continues playing as he heads off to school. Inside the divination club room, Sojiro drops into a chair and looks over at his senpai. Let's start with the basics, he says. Like, what's your name? Mizuki, who happens to be carrying a box containing some strange object, skillfully avoids the question. Why? She asks. What exactly do you want to know? My shoe size? If you're offering information, I'd rather hear something else, Sojiro jokes. Mizuki stands up to respond but stumbles slightly. As Sojiro glances downward, his expression freezes. Wait a second. His eyes lock onto her indoor slippers. Those are first-year slippers. Mizuki immediately panics. Uh, I didn't realize there was a door over there. What are you even talking about? Sojiro asks, completely confused. Desperately searching for an excuse, she blurts out. I knew they belonged to first years, I just happened to like this color. Sojiro stares at her in disbelief. You're a first year? Mizuki lets out a long sigh before finally admitting, I'm actually repeating a year. The revelation makes Sojiro leap from his seat in panic. I'm sorry, I don't know what I'm supposed to say. You repeated an entire year? A small smile appears on Mizuki's face. Unfortunately, it disappears the moment Sojiro casually mutters, Oh, I guess that explains why you're a little lacking. Back in the club room, Mizuki nearly bursts into tears. Repeating a year has absolutely nothing to do with not having friends, she snaps, and what you just said was incredibly rude. Realizing he'd stuck his foot in his mouth yet again, Sojiro immediately panics. Trying desperately to change the subject, he points out, You still haven't told me your name. Mizuki casually waves the topic away. My name is Pai. Sojiro blinks. You seriously say the weirdest things. With a playful smirk, she replies, There's really nothing worth mentioning about me. Not my name, not even my race. Sojiro stares at her in stunned silence. Wait, what exactly do you mean by race? Are you even human? Grinning mischievously, Mizuki answers, My name is Senpai. My species remains unknown. Sojiro can only wonder whether she's actually okay with saying such bizarre things out loud. Ignoring his reaction, Mizuki suddenly shoves the club application forms toward him. Just sign up already. He reluctantly accepts the paperwork. However, instead of filling it out, he unexpectedly reaches over and grabs her hand. Mizuki's eyes widen. Startled, she quickly pulls away. Did you bring an umbrella today? She asks. No, Sojiro answers. The forecast said it'd be sunny. Twisting a strand of hair around her finger, Mizuki quietly says, Then stop by the shoe lockers after school. I have something to give you. Sojiro gazes out the window, wondering what she could possibly mean. Smack. Without warning, Mizuki hits him on the head. Stop talking to yourself and come with me. Rubbing the sore spot, Sojiro asks, What did you mean by having something for me? With a teasing smile, Mizuki replies, An umbrella? The moment she includes herself in the situation, Sojiro freezes. This girl really is an idiot, he thinks. Opening the umbrella above them, Mizuki invites him underneath. We can go wherever you want. Embarrassed, Sojiro steps beneath the umbrella while desperately trying to stop his imagination from running wild. Then he asks, Why didn't you ride your bike today? Blushing slightly, Mizuki mumbles, When it rains, Senpai takes the bus. Sojiro chuckles. You sound like a snake every time you call yourself Senpai. Naturally, he starts repeatedly calling her Senpai just to irritate her. When they arrive at the bus stop, Mizuki asks, You're taking the bus too? He nods. I'll ride it for part of the way home. She stretches out her hand. Give me the umbrella back. After Sojiro hands it over, she smiles softly. See you tomorrow at school. Then she turns and starts walking away. Sojiro blinks. Wait, aren't you going to miss your stop? Mizuki glances back at him with the same gentle smile. Don't catch a cold. And with that, she walks off, leaving Sojiro standing there in complete confusion. What was that all about, he wonders. For a moment, he'd even considered seeing her home like some kind of gentleman. Now, all he feels is irritated with himself. Meanwhile, Mizuki reflects on the lie she told about being a high school repeater. She can't believe Sojiro actually accepted it without question. Why is she trying this hard to maintain the deception? Letting out a sigh, she remembers the confession he made about liking older girls. That's why she lied. She didn't want him to look down on her once he learned the truth. Mizuki blushes in frustration as memories of eating lunch together and sharing an umbrella on the way home replay inside her mind. The recollection sends a shiver through her entire body. As the morning sun rises, she quietly folds her umbrella shut and makes up her mind. For now, I'll continue being senpai.